March is National Nutrition Month, and instead of debating carnivore, keto, or Mediterranean, today we're asking something simpler. What if the answer isn't a diet at all? What if it's understanding whole foods, macronutrients, and sustainable balance? We're talking protein, fat, carbs, and why fueling your body properly might be simpler than you think. I know I've been searching all my life for proper balance in my life, and I think I'm finally on to something.
It's a beautiful chaos, this roller coaster ride. The ups, the downs are spinning all around inside. It's a beautiful chaos. Sometimes I love, sometimes I hate. Have to pause, renegotiate, but with gratitude I appreciate this beautiful chaos.
Welcome to Beautiful Chaos. I'm Tammy Ramsey, and today our episode is titled Fuel First: Whole Foods, Macronutrients, and Sustainable Balance. Guys, I am so lucky to have Meri Galvan here today. She has been here before. We have talked nutrition and metabolism. We've talked on multiple levels. Today, we're going to talk a little deeper into nutrition and what she actually coaches with. So she's a personal trainer. She's a nutrition coach. She owns Savage Strong Fitness in Salmon, Idaho. She started an online coaching company that helps women get strong and fit. It's called Savage Fit Life. And it has helped me become healthier and more confident. And it helps a lot of women. I know, I have seen. I'm on a Facebook group page. I know that she is helping lots of women that are going through perimenopause, menopause. They're learning how to rebuild their metabolism to gain muscle when they haven't worked out for years and years, and to feel absolutely incredible in their bodies again. Her passion is showing women that it's never too late to change. Through strength training, balanced nutrition, and mindset coaching, she teaches that fitness isn't about perfection. It's about progress and owning your power, because strong looks good at every age, and that is a fact. And I would like to say I would prefer to be stronger over being thin. Well, welcome, Meri, to Beautiful Chaos again. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me back. I love getting a chance to sit and talk with you, and we have some fun things to cover today, so I'm super excited.
We really do. So my first question is, and I'm just going to jump right in there because I like to get down to business.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it. So when you coach clients, what's the biggest difference you see between eating people that are eating processed foods versus whole foods, or are they even coming to you eating whole foods?
Yeah, honestly, I have a wide spectrum of people. So I have some clients who really need to make a big shift from the processed foods to a more whole foods focused diet. And then I have others who have already done some work with that. And so it's just small refinements and tweaks. And, I think the biggest difference between people who are having a more whole food focused diet versus the highly processed foods is the way that they feel. So, with either one, you can achieve weight loss. It's a range of calories, right? But the types of food that you're putting in your body is going to change the way you feel. So we're talking about like your energy levels. Is that stable throughout the day? The people that are having those more whole food focused diets, they have more stable energy. They have fewer cravings. They have better hunger control throughout the day. And, really with those really important parts, it makes fat loss easier. And I mean, most of the clients that I have that I'm working with are focused on either losing fat or losing fat and building muscle. And, if you have a diet that is heavily processed, you're going to feel more hungry, even if you have higher calorie intake. You're probably going to struggle with cravings and that blood sugar swing, those afternoon crashes. You're
Yeah.
probably going to feel more inflammation and fatigue. And, it makes it harder to do the things that you need to do and to stick to a nutrition plan when you're fighting those things. And so, like for a lot of people, just making the switch of food choices, it makes the process of dieting so much easier. And there used to be this fad. I love fads. They
Yeah,
come and
they
go.
come and go.
But it was like it was dirty macros, basically what it is. And it's like if it fits your macros, you can have it. You can
Mm,
eat whatever you want as long as you're hitting your macros or your calories, which it's like, okay, well, yeah, but how are you feeling? Are you making it harder on yourself in the process because your balance is out of whack? And I honestly feel like yes. If you don't have a bigger shift towards the whole food focus and you have too many of these ultra processed foods, you're making it way harder for yourself and you're not going to feel as good.
right. And I think that, there's definitely things that are built into the processed foods that
Hmm.
that stop your body from going, I'm full, and it makes you actually want more. So if you're eating ultra processed foods like potato chips
Hmm.
or I don't know, just anything out of a box pretty much is processed. And so if you're eating those things, then they definitely have something in it that does not fulfill you. It doesn't satiate you. And
Right.
you're constantly hungry. Like that's just why if you eat something like mac and cheese with even if it has oh gosh, I used to do chili and mac and cheese and hot dogs for the kids, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and I ate it too, I'm not gonna lie.
Mhm.
And afterwards, I'd be like, okay, now I need like an ice cream or something
Mhm.
chocolatey. Like it just made me want and craved more. So I feel like that's also a thing, which is like you're saying, it makes your diet harder if you're trying to lose weight.
Yeah, yeah, because you're constantly hungry. Even though you've eaten a good amount of food,
Right.
a good amount of calories, you don't feel satisfied. And really, that's one of the things that's amazing about Whole Foods is that they have those things in them that are going to help with those hunger cues. They're going to help to make you feel full. And, ultra processed foods, they're engineered specifically to be highly palatable, like to go down really easy because they want you to buy more of them, right? So
Right.
like the more chips you eat, the more you buy.
That's right.
But if you compare, what's the main ingredient of like a potato chip versus a whole potato, like you could easily eat 800 calories in potato chips and still be
Oh yeah.
hungry.
Yeah.
But could you do that with baked potatoes?
No.
No way,
No
right?
way. You can't even,
No way.
well, in
And it's
Idaho,
the
you
way
can't
it's
eat
been
a whole one.
processed, right? So that
Yeah.
presentation makes a difference. And the things that they're doing to the food and adding to the food to make it go down easy and be very like you want more of it, addicting, that's not in the natural state. And so it's not that potatoes are bad. They're not bad at all, but it's the way that they're processed and engineered so that they become more addicting and they don't have like there's no fiber, right? Fiber is a
Right.
big thing that I think gets left out of highly processed foods that is a natural it kind of quiets our hunger, right? So
Right.
that's going to make you feel full. Same with proteins. A lot of like the highly processed foods don't have protein in them. And that is another one of those macronutrients that's going to make you feel full. And when you take that out and you have just, very altered fats and carbs, it's not that you don't have willpower. And I think a lot of people misunderstand this. It's like, oh, I have no control. No, you're not supposed to.
Yeah.
Like, that is the point.
Yeah.
It's like,
Exactly.
I can't remember which brand the commercial literally was like, you can't just eat one, it was like some type of potato chip, but
It was Lay's potato chips.
yeah,
I
it's
remember
like,
that. Yes. You just can't
yeah,
eat
like
one.
you really can't.
You really can't. So now that you've swung us into macronutrients,
Yeah.
let's talk about what are the three main macronutrients and what are you looking at? Because I know when I'm filling out my app,
Mhm.
exactly what you're looking at, and I appreciate that. I appreciate seeing it in that aspect. So tell me what those
Yeah.
three
I think
macronutrients
it's
are.
important to understand this when you're learning about nutrition because, calories in, calories out, that is important for whether you're gaining or losing weight. But also, what types of foods you're eating make a big difference as well. And so, the three main macronutrients that we can talk about are protein, carbohydrates, and fats. And so, all the food choices that you have that you pick up at the grocery store or that you grow on your own, those are all either one macronutrient nutrient or a combination of those. And basically what that is those are the blocks of what gives your food energy. And so for protein, for example, protein's one that I think is really, really um, underused for women in particular, and
Yes.
is probably one of the most important ones when it comes to our longevity and also like our body composition. So protein is basically the building block macro. It's going to build and repair your tissues, so like muscle, right, which is super important. And also, it's one of the best for regulating hunger. So if you want that satiety where you're like, I feel like I'm not hungry anymore, I feel like I've had enough food, getting enough protein is really going to be key for that. And, for women as we age, we want to be able to maintain as much muscle or build muscle. And protein is the number one thing that you really need to be able to do that. And it's not going to just keep you strong, but it's going to help with your metabolism too. So, the more muscle you have, the more food you can eat. So
Right.
it's really one of probably the most important. And that's things like meat, dairy, eggs. You can get supplements, which basically, like your supplements are usually a broken down version of those things. But there's also protein in like beans and nuts and vegetables. It's just a smaller percentage. So when you're looking for those high protein foods, the animal proteins are going to be the easiest ones to find to get protein high without adding a bunch of extra stuff. The second important macro to think about is carbohydrates. And, there's all kinds of different versions of carbs. So your vegetables are carbs, your fruits are carbs. Those are good, healthy, whole food carbs, right? We want those. But also things like the processed foods are usually heavy in carbs as well. So, which version you're picking for those makes a difference in how you're going to feel. But they in your body are our body's first choice when it comes to burning energy. So when we like get up and we move throughout the day, our body wants carbohydrates because it's easy to break down and convert to energy, easier than any other of the macros. And so, whatever you eat, your body's like, that's what I'm going to burn first.
Right.
And so
Right.
if you're especially active, like if you're lifting weights or you're exercising or you have just an active life, you really do need to make sure you're getting carbs. And sometimes people get afraid of them, I think, because of the processed versions, that they almost want to be like avoiding carbs or think that they're bad in some way.
Right.
And, I really think it's important to know they're not all bad and that your body needs those for energy. And so having some component of carbohydrates in your diet is super important. And
Right.
then the last one that we can talk about is fats. And, like there's been a whole, like, I don't know, decade or so of culture that has taught us that like fats are bad.
Oh
Fats
my
will make you
gosh.
fat, right?
Yes, 100%. Everything was low fat.
Uh-huh.
They changed their marketing campaign to target that we
Totally.
should be low fat, and it's absolutely wrong.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's like they've each had like they're getting picked on the
Yeah.
macros.
Yeah.
Fats has had their time where they've been picked on, but they really are important. And your fats are number one, they do help you stay full longer. They are of the macros, the macro that has the most calories per gram. So they are kind of, you have to be careful because they add up very quickly. And I think that's where they kind of got the bad name,
Yeah.
because you don't get to have very many of those fat grams before your calories are just out of control. But they help with your hormone production, which is so important, especially for women. They help with brain health. They're going to make you feel full. And then also you need them to like absorb the nutrients that you eat. So like your vitamins and stuff. You have to have fat for some of those to actually get into the body. And if your fats are too low, you're really going to be affecting that brain health and hormone health and then your muscle absor or your vitamin absorption too.
Right.
And like any of them, there's not a good or bad. It's just varying degrees on the scale, right? So, too much of anything, I think, is putting you out of balance. And
Right.
as long as you are paying attention and looking at like what your foods are and kind of being mindful about, you know, which ones are going to be better for you than others, you can have a little bit of everything. So fats in your diet are going to be, there's animal fats, right? Things like the fat on your meat, and then also like your egg yolks, the center of the eggs. You also can get fats from nuts and seeds, they're in just like a lot of little things. When we're buying things that are processed, though, those processed foods, there's oftentimes a lot of added fats or like highly processed oils and things
Right.
that just make it's not a natural fat, right?
Right.
So, finding the right types of fats that are healthy for you and not overdoing it is also important.
Well, and what you're cooking with too, because I know that
Mhm.
seed oils are also getting a bad name now, but it's
Yep.
because of the way they're processed. And a lot of the ones that are highly processed are like the vegetable oil and the canola oil. And they're saying that olive oil is the best out of all the seed oils because they only have one step in the process.
Mhm.
So, I mean, I do think we all have to just be aware of what we're putting in our body and not just go down the aisle and throw things in our cart and hope for the best. Because,
Yeah.
you're not going to walk into a doctor and go, Doctor, wow, I just put on 50 pounds and I don't know what I did wrong because, I just fed my family. And you have to know what you're putting in your body and how your body's handling it. Because, well,
Mhm.
you and I have talked about this, and I'm actually going to be doing a whole episode on a carnivore diet, but
Yeah.
I had to change how I was eating based on my inflammation and the things that had happened to my body. I mean, and I'm almost 60, so I really
Mhm.
feel like it was all those years of starving my body from fat and protein that all of
Mhm.
a sudden it was like, hey, dude, we're not going to function anymore until you feed us the way we're supposed to be fed.
Right.
So let's get back on the protein and the way that it creates muscle because one thing that I've noticed since I've been strength training, and this is for all women, I feel like all women, not even
Mhm.
50 plus, but it's just important for all of us to strength train because that does help our metabolism function more properly. It processes your glucose. So if you're eating, well, I'll just give you an example. So I ate a cheesecake while on vacation and I had no weird side effects. I didn't have inflammation. I didn't
Mhm.
gain weight. I didn't like nothing. I ate it and I was fine. And I really think it's because my body has changed since April and the way that my metabolism functions changed and my muscles are so much stronger and larger than they were that they're able to process that glucose in a healthy way. So let's talk about protein and the way that it builds muscle.
Yeah. Yeah, so when we strength train, basically what's happening is your muscles are the fibers are tearing apart, and then your body has to rebuild it. Well, the energy to rebuild it needs to come from somewhere. So that's where protein comes in. Those proteins are going to come in and build little chains, right, that are going to rebuild and structure your body. So that process, if you don't have the right ingredients to
Yeah.
rebuild, it makes it very difficult, right? So your body might tear apart, but then does it rebuild itself better and bigger and better? Most likely not. And even if you're not like strength training consistently, or you're not like really pushing yourself hard in the gym, the protein is still very important to maintain muscle. And I think that that's really important for women to know, whether you're a gym rat or not, you still need to have a high protein content in your diet because as we age, like we are naturally, as our hormones change and our activity level decreases, we're losing muscle mass every single decade, right? It's dropping unless you are actively fighting for it. And, strength training is really, really important. And, both of us know and have like it's got to be a priority. But
Yeah.
if it's not necessarily a priority yet, that doesn't mean that you don't need the protein. Because whether you're working in the gym for it or you're just trying to fight the anatomy of your hormone changes and activity changes, the body still needs that to be able to hold on to and maintain the muscle mass that you have. And it supports your metabolism, it stabilizes blood sugar. Like all those things are really important in how your body is moving and processing. But that muscle for women, that's your strength and independence. And, once it's gone, it's really hard to build it back. And
Yeah.
so, being proactive in the beginning when you're younger, I do feel like our younger girls now are getting such a better education, and there's just so much more information out there that is, I think, good for them to start younger.
Yeah.
For unfortunately, for a lot of older women, it's like you went through life in a rough time when either women, it was discouraged for you to be athletic, to have muscle, to go to the gym, like that was kind of frowned upon. Like the idea of fitness for women was like hula hoops and crap.
And
It's
Richard
like,
Simmons.
yeah, yeah, but it was like, but the women that are coming up now, these younger girls, I think about my daughter, for example, she's 17 and has had experience and been in a gym and seen other women do that from the time she was born.
Mhm.
And I think about like myself growing up, like uh, I didn't really understand anything about strength training until I was really like in my 30s later in life. And it's like, oh, that's just something that the guys do, and I didn't
Yeah.
realize that it was also important for women too.
Yeah.
And so like I'm a little behind the curve, but but that's still like we all need to prioritize that, regardless of where you're at, if you've done it your whole life or not.
Right. Well, and I think it's important to understand like our muscle mass, from what I understand, it decreases when you go through menopause by
Mhm.
40%. And then every decade after that, it's 3 to 8%. And
Yeah.
so that's a lot of loss. And I see, you know, people a lot older than me that don't work out, that the assisted living, that need assistance just getting out of a chair or getting in and out of the car because they don't have the muscle strength in their legs anymore.
Yep.
And that's where our choices are. And
Mhm.
I don't feel like you have to be a gym rat, like you said. I think if we're eating protein and maybe you're doing air squats, for crying
Yeah.
out loud, like just as long as you're being active and utilizing, what is that saying? If you don't use it, you'll lose it.
Yeah.
That's
It's 100%
100%.
true.
Yeah, yeah. So, let's talk about, let's see, brain health. Are you familiar with because I watch a lot of YouTube stuff in the morning, and I watch all these doctors that are doing podcasts, and
Mhm.
they talk about brain health and that, your brain likes the healthy fat, and it's largely a fatty mass, and it feeds off of, well, two things. It'll either feed off glucose or to feed off ketones,
Mhm.
and I believe cholesterol too is in there. So
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know
And like omega-3 fatty acids, which are in fish oils and things like that,
right.
those types of fats that used to be a little bit more prevalent in our diets are harder and harder to come by with the more processed foods. So, like those natural healthy fats, which are really important for the brain function, in our like natural whole foods, you can find those, but
Right.
they're usually ultra processed in a way that is going to not give you the benefits that the natural version would, for your brain health. But yeah, like your brain is mostly fat. It's like
Yeah.
60% or something. And that's why those fats in our diet are important for that brain health, right? And it's like you can't eliminate those. And I think when women are looking at their macros, if they are, and they're trying to decide like which way should I go? Should I have more fats? Should I have more carbs? I think with any of them, there really is kind of you shouldn't go too low on either. And so with fats in particular, like you really shouldn't go, I think, below like 30 grams of fats per day in your diet would be like the bottom line. Because at that point, then you're risking your health,
Right.
right? You need to have a certain number of fats for just basic brain function and for those hormones to, move through the body the way that they should. And so like if you're slicing and dicing calories and you cut your carbs and your fats down, you want to make sure that you're not getting them so low that then you're risking those other health factors. And
Right.
so, that's one thing that I don't like about a low fat diet. Like the fats are easy to take out because they're so calorie dense. When you're trying to get into a calorie deficit, people sometimes want to go for those because they're like, I could do without peanut butter, or I could take the oil
Right.
out of my cooking, or things like that. Go with the low fat version of everything. But then you get into that dangerous zone where your brain's not functioning, your hormones are all whacked out, and you've gone too low for sure.
I think I've been there a few times.
I know, I have to. Well, and I've done it with both sides because, I've experimented with all things diet related. And so I've done the very low carb and I've done a very low fat. And, like it matters. And I think it's individual too, like the way that you feel. And I think that's important to talk about for us too, because like for some people, a higher fat diet will feel great. And they can go lower carb if they have those higher fats. They feel full, they have their energy's fine. Maybe they're not like going hard in the gym and they have more of a sedentary life, but they feel good with those higher fats. And
Hmm.
then, if you're somebody who needs that immediate energy from the carbs, you can shift it the other way and have like a little bit higher carbs, lower on the fats. And I feel like with everybody, like protein is a staple. That's the
Yes.
thing we all need to have. Don't mess with your protein, like keep that high.
Yes.
But your fats and your carbs, they can go either direction, right? And it's not independent. Like everybody doesn't need to have the same percentage or balance when it comes to those things. And I think it's really important to notice, like, how do you feel individually?
Right. I think that's really important because Kevin and I do different ways of eating similar
Mhm.
with our protein. Our protein's always the same,
Yep.
but like for breakfast, he'll have 3 eggs, bacon, and a couple pieces of slices of avocado.
Mhm.
And I'll do honestly 3 eggs and a can of sardines in olive oil. Um but I do think that what works for him doesn't necessarily work for me. And like he can eat cottage cheese and I can have cottage cheese a little bit, but
Mhm.
that's one thing that affects me. That's a fat my body is like, no, that's just too much fat for me today.
Mhm.
And so I like that you just need to figure it out for you personally, and everybody's different in what they can handle. But I think the biggest thing is becoming aware and choosing what to focus on. And I think that focusing on macronutrients is a great way to go. So,
Mhm.
how does somebody figure out what works best with their body? Just this whole, I'm going to guess kind of thing? Is there percentages that you feel like would, like you were saying, 30 grams of fat, no less than 30 grams of
Yeah.
fat? And
I think it's probably best if you're not sure to start with a balance.
right,
And so not extreme in any direction. And I honestly, when I coach, like I know that there's names for different ratios, right? So that's
right,
where we're talking about keto and carnivore and like basically what that is just those ratios are changing. And
right.
what food choices you have to pick, within those parameters makes a difference also. But if you don't know, start with a balanced plate. So if you're imagining your plate and you're like, okay, how am I going to fill this? I got to have my protein be one portion. I'm going to have my veggies be the other portion. And then I've got some carbs and some fats, right? So starting with kind of a balance there, if you're just looking at your plate. For women, I recommend doing 1 gram per pound of lean body weight. So like your ideal body weight is a good place to start with that. So if you're figuring calories, it's like there's a math involved here. So I don't want to
Yeah,
get too complicated. But, usually about 35% of your total calories is going to be your protein. And, so that's first. That's always going to stay the same because that's a good amount to build and maintain muscle. If you get too low with your protein, you're not going to be able to hold on to your muscle. So stick with that. Now, your fats and carbs, we got what the other 70%
right.
ish. Let's say 30% is your protein. I mean, we're getting into mental math here.
Yeah, and I can't do math, so I don't math, but I like the
So,
plate idea.
if
Let's
you're
just
splitting like let's say 35% carbs, 35% fats, 30% protein, that's balanced, right? Then I really feel like pay attention to how you feel. Okay, do that. Do it well. I mean, you got to be consistent. You got to give it enough time.
right.
But pay attention to things like your energy and your hunger levels, your recovery. Like all of those things are affected by your food balance. And so if you're noticing that you are like crashing in the afternoon, like maybe you need to change that balance a little bit and, give you like, because carbs will burn fast. So if you're like, have good energy and then it kind of crashes, you might have your carbs too high and you need to
Right.
add some fats to those meals. So then you can take that percentage and shift it. I'm taking away some carbs and I'm adding some extra fats to my balanced plate. Like I still have everything on there, right? I'm not eliminating one thing totally,
Right.
but I'm just pulling them one direction or the other. Um, and try it. Then say, okay, do I feel better this way or do I feel worse?
Right.
What's changing? How's my sleep? How's my energy? How's my digestion? Like all those things will be affected by that ratio. And you'll be able to, if you're being intuitive with it, like doing it intentionally, you'll be able to document and understand what works best for you. I know for me, like I said, I've done every version.
Yeah.
And so like if I'm training hard in the gym and I am like really pushing myself with workouts, I need more carbs in my diet, but I need them around the time that I'm working out.
Yeah.
Because if I have them just anytime during the day, I'll get more hungry. But if it's around my workout, it's going to the workout and then I'm good, right? But
Yeah.
I had to learn that through experience and through trial and error. And then I noticed, well, when I don't have those carbs, when I'm trying to work out heavy, I don't have as much energy in my workout, and then I want caffeine. And it's like, okay, I'd rather have my carbs than, a bunch of caffeine and not be able to sleep at night.
Yeah.
And, but then there's other times when I'm like, if I have to really cut calories down, if I get my carbs into like a moderate state, it's almost better for me to just cut them way low and pull my fats up because I feel like the energy of the carbs burns off quickly and then I'm just dragging. And if I have my fats up a little bit higher, that energy is more sustainable. But that I
Right.
had to try it.
Right.
And
Well, and I
so
think that's
that's
important
the
to be
hard part.
aware. Yeah, to
Yeah.
be aware of what's happening. And sometimes I feel like it's like that we desensitize our bodies by just feeding it all the time and feeding it all the wrong things because maybe we don't know. But I feel like that if you can kind of cleanse your body, like just by eating healthy for a week. Just try doing, your balanced meals
Mhm.
for an entire week, every meal, and stick to it. It doesn't have to be super hard because I know people that listen to the show are there's people that have kids at home and
Yeah.
life is crazy and people don't want to food prep because it's so so time consuming. Like there's all these excuses we can make for ourselves because I've made them. but
Yeah.
but but we need to be able to recognize in ourselves how we feel, like you're saying, because you can't change the way you're eating and not listen to your body.
Yep.
And sometimes we can't hear our body because it's like just doesn't know how to function anymore
Yeah.
because we've kind of killed off our cells and all the
Right. Well,
things.
and I think our connection with ourself, like I think that gets dulled and distorted by the processed foods.
Yeah.
Like your ability to recognize, am I hungry or am I full? But I'm craving that taste, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like our ability to recognize what we're truly feeling. It's hard to tune into that. It takes a lot of concentration and I think intention with food. And a lot of times it's like we're just going through the day. We don't have time to think about how I feel like I'm eating the food in my car when I'm driving my kids to practice or whatever, or you just like you're grabbing whatever is available. But if you can slow down and like be a little more intentional, like notice how your body feels, notice your hunger, like recognize those things and also note like when you don't feel good, well, why is that? What did I do today?
What did I
Because
eat today?
yeah,
Yeah.
because most likely there's that connection. And we may not always want to hear it, but it's like, who's to blame for the way that you feel? Well, it's probably you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, we don't want to be told that it's our fault. Like we want it to be somebody else's fault or like our DNA or whatever it is, like it's genetics or it's hormones or it's because I'm in menopause. What we want to say that it's something else, but most of the time it's what you're doing, what you're putting into your body that's making the biggest difference. And if you can make some of those important swaps and focus on putting the good stuff in there, like slow down, make some better decisions, like I feel like you're gonna notice, oh gosh, I have control. And it's
Yeah.
empowering. It's like because if I'm putting good stuff in my body, I feel good.
Yeah.
And
100%. Yeah.
yeah, and it's like I'm in control of that. I can decide whether I feel good or bad, but now I just gotta follow through and do the good things.
Right. I love that. And it does take, you do have to be intentional 100%.
Yep.
You've got to be willing to put the work in,
Yeah.
whether it's nutritionally, whether it's, in a gym, whether it's just moving
Yep.
your butts.
Well, and I
Um,
also want to say, like, don't expect to know everything.
no.
Like I can talk about this pretty freely because I've like devoted my life to learning and focusing on nutrition and worked with hundreds of different women on how their nutrition balance can work for them. So like that's what I am doing all the time and thinking about all the time. That's why it's
Right.
easy for me to talk about it. If you don't have to expect that you need to know everything about macros and which balance and like what ratio of foods and what foods fit what like that is so overwhelming.
Yeah. I would say just call Mary or
Yeah.
email
I mean, there
Mary, text or
definitely
whatever.
like hiring a coach when it comes to nutrition is, I mean, if you can swing it and you want real support, like take that off your plate and let somebody else help you with that
Yeah.
because you don't have to know it all. There's people out there that can help you with that. But
That's
even
right.
if you can't, like if you can't afford it or it's not something that you are interested in, is working with somebody else, starting small makes a big difference, right? So just little
Right.
things, little swaps in your kitchen, changing from the ultra processed to minimally processed foods, thinking intentionally when you're eating, like those small steps, that's really going to add up long term if you commit to it, right?
Right.
So you don't have to know it all. You don't need to go down the rabbit hole if you don't want to. But there's people out there that can help you for sure. And there's lots of resources too. I mean, information is just out there flowing free if you want
Yeah.
to look for it.
Well,
And
yeah. YouTube, Chat GPT, like
totally.
there's all kinds of, you
Yeah,
just have to ask
honestly, Chat
Google.
GPT, if you're like, what should I eat for these macros? This is my who I am. It
Yeah.
right there.
Yeah.
It's better than nothing.
It is. Hey, when I first started the
Yeah.
carnivore diet, I asked Chat GPT because I'm like, hey, make me a 7-day menu because
Yeah.
I'm clueless. And it did.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a thing. But well, thank you for your time. I hope we hit everything that we were hoping to talk about. Was there anything you wanted to add before we
Um,
go?
No, I
I
mean, I
think
think
we
the
got
main
it.
thing is like don't take it too serious. Don't get too frustrated if it's not perfect. Like there is no such thing as a perfect life and a perfect meal and a perfect macro balance. It's really just about doing the best you can, making those improvements and shooting for that balance in life where yes, you're going to have days when you're nailing it and it's amazing and you feel great and it's perfect, but then you're also going to have those kind of crummy days when it's like your whole diet is a train wreck.
Yeah.
But what matters is what you do most often. And so, whether it's a good day or a bad day, really try to stack up those wins and get back on track and never quit trying because you are with your body for the rest of your life. So, this is a lifelong process of trying to do better for yourself. And, being discouraged is not going to help you move forward. You just need to let it go, recognize, what has happened, but then also move forward with doing better and keep working on it. It does get easier. you
It
know
really does. Like it's just same with going on vacation was always my weakest
Mhm.
moments, right? And now that I've been choosing to eat healthier, that when I go on vacation, I just automatically choose the healthy.
Yep.
And I'm always like amazed for a minute because I'm like, "Oh, look at me. I ordered
Yeah,
something
look at
really healthy and I'm happy about it."
right, and you like
Yeah,
it.
and I love it. And so, yeah. So, thank you so much. Words of wisdom for sure. And I love You're talking about listening to your body. It's all about balance. This is about doing things that are sustainable, and definitely balancing your meals and your life is sustainable and something that you want to focus on. So thank you, Mary, for joining me today. I always love having you on.
Awesome. Well, it's great talking to you, and hopefully I'll be back.
Okay, I sure you will.
Thanks, Tammy.